Smile looked pretty.
Hi everybody, my name is Meghan Cholach and I am here to show you how to make a very simple Ukrainian open face sandwich. We call them Kanapky. I am not Ukrainian. My husband and his whole family is. This is one of my very favorite things to make. They're great for parties. You can make big batches of them and everybody loves them. You might not think that originally when you see all the stuff I'm going to put on a piece of bread, but they're delicious. Very simple. I'm going to get started and then we'll talk a little bit about the ingredients and when we make these things and a little bit about kind of the history of it. Very first thing, you're going to want some nice, I prefer non-seeded rye bread. You want something not too soft but not too firm. And then your spread is made of equal parts of cream cheese and butter. You get the best result if you let them soften up a little bit. You're gonna take your butter and put it in your mixing bowl. And your cream cheese, and do the same. Lots of people use different spreads for their Kanapky depending on how they were brought up or what region they were from. This was the spread that was taught to me by my mother-in-law and it's my favorite one. It's very simple. Maybe if I can get this open. But you're gonna throw that in your mixing bowl and with the paddle, mix it up until it's well blended. Pardon the noise for a few minutes. Okay, so super easy, especially if it's softened. Towel on my hands. And it just looks like almost like a nice fluffy buttercream. All right, so when my mother-in-law makes these, she uses an entire piece of bread per open face sandwich. I prefer to cut the bread in half just because I think they're a little bit easier to handle, a little bit easier to place on a platter or a plate, whatever. So I usually just take half the loaf, my handy dandy bread knife. I cut them in half like this. Super easy. And we'll do the other half. So one of the things about Kanapky that I mentioned before is a lot of times this was used for social events as an easy kind of things you have on hand. In Ukraine, wheat was prevalent, and so bread was always something that people could have on hand. So that was great. And also in Europe, the main meal of the day was kind of lunchtime. So especially on Sundays after church, you'd go home after church, have your big meal, and then at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, your neighbors would come or your family would come and you'd have something a little bit lighter. This was kind of like that go-to type of thing. You could feed a lot of people with something like this. I usually just put mine out on the platter. And then it kind of becomes an assembly line type of thing. I'm gonna grab my, I forgot my butter knife. And then, I'll put this right here, sink is clean. I grab this, just kind of slather it on like you would butter a piece of toast. It can be as thick or as thin as you want it. Some people, like I said, use different kinds of spreads. In some of the things that I saw online, people used a mixture of, we call it borishke in our family. It's beets mixed with horseradish. It's a little bit spicy. We typically use it at Easter time to put on top of our ham or our other like kielbasa, or which is what most English people call it, or the sausages that we have. But some people use that as a base. We were just kind of happy with the butter and cream cheese mixture. And they go pretty quickly. Just spread them all on. So I'll talk a little bit about the ingredients that we're gonna put on top of this. Like I said, it's pretty simple. The things that we use were all things that were very prevalent. People could grow the items. We start off with this and then a piece of ham. So ham was usually a meat that was prevalent in Eastern Europe, Ukraine. So we use ham as a base in our family. Some people use turkey. Some people just use whatever they have laying around. I'm just gonna do the one platter for now. So I just go and you can use any kind of ham you want or any kind of meat you want. I typically use this just because I like it to look even. And the fat-free ham comes in a nice little rectangular piece, and I typically just cut it into 4 because it seems to be perfect for the slice of bread. And then you literally slap the ham on. Super easy. And you can make, the ingredients however thick or thin that you want. Put those on. Sometimes I'll cut everything up ahead of time, and then it's literally just an assembly line. And my kids will help if they're home, usually eating a whole bunch of stuff in between. The next piece that we use, the next part of this is cheese. We have found that the thing we like most is your plain old, whatever brand, Kraft, Walmart brand, whatever, individually sliced in the little wrapper packaged cheese. It works good because these are often really good the next day or the second day after you make them, and all the juices from all the stuff kind of combined and congeal the cheese, which sounds kind of gross, but it's delicious. I purposely fold it in half triangle ways just because I like the look of it, and then I put 1/2 on each of my slices. They don't have to be exact. Like I said, I cut my bread in half. My mother-in-law serves it on a whole piece. It's just kind of whatever you prefer. I find them easier to transport on a tray. If I'm taking them, a lot of times, if we're going to a party, somebody will say, "Can you make those Ukrainian sandwiches?" I'm always looking for an excuse to make them. So, all right. The next thing after the ham and the cheese, tomatoes. If you've got them fresh from your garden, fantastic. Those are always the best. Cut them into slices, however thick you want. I like them a little bit thinner. That's just kind of my preference, but some people, my mother-in-law cuts them a little bit thicker. Cut up some slices. And then same thing. Tomato slices. 1 tomato slice on each one. This is the other reason I think I like them on a half a piece a little bit more than on a whole piece, because when you use the whole piece of bread, the tomato doesn't cover as much, and I kind of like all of the pieces. I like to be able to have everything kind of in one bite. So, another one. couple that are on this tray. All right, so there's our tomato. All right, the next piece, and this is where it gets a little bit strange, but stay with me. The next piece, bread and butter pickle slices, the chips. This is how it works. It's delish. If you can get ones that are larger, they work the best. I stick one kind of to the side of each because we're kind of making a little bit of a tower here. Again, I get it. People are thinking, oh, that's a little weird for me, but trust me. Next thing, a radish. One of the big things about Kanapky that I learned was people just wanted color on the plate, and these were all things that, other than the ham, but the ham was readily available, the bread was readily available, you could get cheese, the butter, but like all the vegetables, they were all things that could easily be grown in your backyard. And if you talk to anybody who's really kind of come over here from another country, from Europe or Eastern Europe or anywhere, a lot of those people have these big vegetable gardens, and you could grow cucumbers, like pickling cucumbers and tomatoes and radishes. All of that was in their garden, and they made their own pickles. So all of this stuff was so readily available no matter what. That's why this was such a great, easy thing for them to make. So I use radishes. Some people, because beets are another kind of staple in Eastern European, Ukrainian cuisine. We make borscht, which is the beet soup, which is delicious. And like I mentioned, we make the little spread out of beets and horseradish. Some people would use beets instead of radishes, just to add some color. I put the radish kind of overlapping the pickle. Cut a few more up. Super simple. Sometimes if they're a small piece, I'll throw a couple on there. Some people in my family will pick off the radishes, which annoys me because I love radishes, but that's okay, more for me. All right, last thing. I'm going to just use this big piece. Okay. Not last thing, second to last thing. A hard-boiled egg. I know, it gets worse. I get it, but it's delicious. I'm going to use my handy-dandy egg slicer here, because I get even slices and the yolks don't fall out. And then I take the nice pieces and kind of stick that right on the middle, on top. Usually at home when I'm making these, I'm usually eating the ends because they're not big enough to go on the sandwich. Do another one. And it's hard to determine like how many pickles you need, or how many tomatoes you need, or how many eggs you need, because it kind of depends on how thick you like your sandwiches, or how big you're gonna make them, whether or not your egg peels nicely and looks nice, type of thing. So just kind of wing it. We always have extra hard-boiled eggs because my kids like egg salad, so it's not a big deal. All right. The last and final thing for these is the green onion. I've used both green onion and chives. I like the green onion better. So what we typically would do, I'm just gonna cut off the very ends of the green onion. And then you kind of start with an even peel, and then I have these handy dandy herb scissors, which are fantastic. We grow a lot of herbs at our house, and so when I have to use them, these are a huge time saver. So I typically just kind of go like this, right over top of the sandwich, get them to come out. Nothing fancy about it. And they just kind of plop on there. You can cut them all at once if you want and sprinkle them on. Just kind of depends on what you got. Oops, making kind of a mess, but it's all right. Probably didn't need that many on that. Go like this. Do the last couple, shake those out. And that's it. That's all there is to it. This simple open face sandwich that works great for parties or little get-togethers. Even my kids, I figured out how to kind of have all the ingredients on hand, and I made like a half a batch of the little spread, stick it in the fridge, and the kids would say, "Can I have some Kanapky and take them to lunch today?" So I'd make a couple of them, stick them in a lunchbox. But they're really versatile, and even though all of this kind of looks like a mess, it really is delicious. And like I said, day 2, day 3, if they last till day 3. In my house, they won't. I will make this whole thing of bread. They'll be gone at the very latest midday, day 2. But all the juices from the pickle and the tomato kind of come together and make it even better. I don't know how it works, but it does. So that's kind of Kanapky, a great all-around Eastern European, Ukrainian open face sandwich, easy to make, delicious, great for family gatherings, and kind of brings everybody together, just like all food does. So thanks for watching. See you soon.